Você chega como mulher para ir surfar com a companhia das meninas e elas me incentivando, me fazia querer crescer mais, querer evoluir mais. Não desistir. Meu nome é Bruna Alves Bessa. Antes de eu começar a surfar, eu estava trabalhando de assessoria, né? Era uma coisa de escritório, eu tinha que estar lá todo dia, né, num horário comercial. Eu não queria ficar presa num horário, eu não queria ficar presa numa rotina. Eu queria mudar para ter essa liberdade de vir quando eu quiser, criar o conteúdo que eu quiser. De filmar, eu gostava de tirar foto, eu gostava de conversar com pessoas. Então eu decidi fazer jornalismo.
Bem-vindos a mais uma TV. Você também vai contribuir.
E de final de semana eu fazia gravações de campeonatos de surf. É a primeira vez que eu fui surfar. Mas eu lembro que esse dia tinha bastante onda, assim. E tão focada em não morrer, em não me afogar, em não acontecer nada, assim. Eu falei, nossa, isso foi perfeito. Fiquei o dia inteiro só pensando nisso, focada em surfar, curtindo o momento. Então, eu acho que a partir do surf foi uma porta de entrada, assim, para várias coisas. Yoga, meditação, alimentação saudável, exercício físico. Então, para mim, foi uma mudança de vida. Tá dentro do escritório, vendo, né, a previsão e pensando o que me prende de estar aqui e não lá fazendo o que eu gosto. Esse é o meu destino, eu tenho que seguir isso. Eu abri mão disso, eu falei, não, pra mim fazia parte da minha saúde mental. Ou eu ia, ou eu ficava louca. Ou vai ou racha, sabe? Comecei a surfar. Eu vi que o mundo do surf era totalmente voltado para o mundo masculino. Desde roupa, desde conteúdo, desde viagens.
As a woman, yeah, you're a minority in the lineup, so you already kind of have a bit of that intimidation from the men who, at most locations, they feel like they own the wave.
Você chega como mulher para ir surfar, tem muito homem, então eles olham, eles julgam, eles estão o tempo inteiro, você tem que se provar o tempo inteiro. Quando ele vê que ela surfa bem, aí acabou todo o encanto, porque ele não quer disputar onda com uma mulher no mar. Quando você tá em mais mulheres, né, no mar, o posicionamento do homem ele é automaticamente diferente. O surf me fez ter um propósito de vida. Unir mulheres, incentivar essas mulheres a fazerem o que elas querem. Eu comecei o Maré Alta. É um projeto de surf feminino. Então é um projeto voltado para mulheres que querem aprender a surfar. Desde organização de viagens, né? Aulas, clínicas, retiros. É um projeto ligado ao autoconhecimento da mulher. O surf é uma ferramenta que a gente vai usar para isso. Então eu senti que quando eu tinha a companhia das meninas, isso ficava de uma maneira mais leve, mais divertido, assim.
O surf feminino tem ganhado espaço, né? Tanto no lifestyle como no surf profissional, né? elas estão ganhando espaço, estão se encorajando.
A grande maioria das meninas que vão viajar com a gente são meninas da cidade. Não tem muito contato com a natureza, com o esporte. Então, primeiro tem esse estranhamento, né? De chegar e você tá literalmente no meio do mato, não tem asfalto, o chão é de terra. Então, tem esse primeiro impacto. E aí, depois elas começam a sentir as transformações, né? E aí, depois com o surf, né? Não sabem surfar, nunca surfaram antes. Então, a gente precisa fazer o posicionamento mesmo. Né, como que elas vão subir, mostrar essa parte do corpo, conhecer a prancha, né? É o primeiro contato que elas têm com o surf. Esse desafio de estar no mar, algumas têm um pouco de medo de mar, medo de água. Então quebrar essas barreiras do medo da natureza, né? Começam a se conectar mais, entender mais o mar, respeitar mais. Então todo mundo já começa a ter essa conexão.
Assim, ela me ensina todos os dias a sempre ser muito coração, a me empoderar, ser mulher, a falar, não, esse é meu lugar.
A Bruna vai estar sempre lá pra falar, vai amiga, vamos fazer assim, a gente pode fazer assado, gosto disso que você faz, não desiste, tô com você. Tudo ela tá sempre apoiando bastante.
Quanto mais elas fazem isso, mais isso vai mudando num geral mesmo, de uma maneira mais profunda na vida delas, né? E aí a experiência passa de ser uma coisa momentânea para ser uma coisa duradoura, né, na vida dela.
I think the more women in the water, the better. And also the more programs that are being set up around the world to specifically get women into surfing is really important for the sport and for female surfing as a whole.
Eu acho que sempre quando tem união de mulheres, tudo fica melhor. A gente você chegar sozinha no mar é uma coisa. Quando você chega com 10, 15, 20 mulheres, é uma energia muito especial. A mulher vai se sentir mais confiante, mais livre, e eu acho que é isso que toda mulher merece.
Welcome to Lorient on the west coast of France, a city that is famous for being at the heart of the offshore racing world. All the major teams are here: Gitana, Sedebo, Banque Populaire, Chiral and many, many more. But Lorient is also famous because of this man, the late, great Eric Tabarly, famous for his range of Penduic boats. So it's his reputation that is such a big influence on this area. And it's always a buzzy, exciting place. It's the centre of the offshore racing world. And that doesn't matter whether you're sailing a big old Team Cat or a mini Transat boat. They're all here. But right now, Lorient is special as being the start of the Ocean Race Europe. The race consists of 3 legs. The first one, starting here in Lorient, then goes to Cascais in Portugal. Leg 2 then goes to Alicante in Spain, and the third leg takes the fleet to the finish in Genoa in Italy. Quite a challenge, but there's been an even bigger challenge for the event, a challenge that's been facing sporting events all over the world: COVID. And they've got a very impressive setup here to deal with it.
What we are aiming to do is this first point, get a clear slate that know that everybody is going to be COVID free when they start the race, and hopefully when they get to the end in Genoa. So although people have come in with their previous PCRs, and they have come in, some of them with PCRs within the 24 hours, we needed to know that everybody at the start has got a clean slate. Therefore, yesterday, rapid antigen test to everybody and PCR to those who are going to be travelling out of France within 72 hours. PCR tests will be repeated for those travelling at later dates so that we make sure that there will be no problem in crossing international frontiers.
So what about the teams that are taking part? Well, down here on the dock where face masks are mandatory, we've got the Imoca 60 class, the first of the two groups. There's 5 boats competing in this particular class. If you followed the recent Vendée Globe, some of these boats are going to be very familiar to you. Like this one, Thomas Royant, linked out. She finished 6th. Another one is Nicolas Troussel's boat, Corum, although unfortunately he was dismasted quite early in the race. But she's back together now. Now here's a team that didn't do the last Vendée Globe, but the name is becoming extremely well known, 11th Hour Racing, Charlie Enright's team. There's going to be a lot of eyes focused on this team because they really are up and running and getting ready for the ocean race next year. And then we have one of the newest teams in the fleet, Offshore Team Germany here. What's interesting about this team is that this is the one boat of the 5 that doesn't have the big horizontal foils. She's got far more conventional dagger boards. But given the variety of wind conditions that we're going to see over the next few days, it might just be that in certain circumstances they have an advantage. Anyway, that's all to play out. But aside from the teams themselves, one of the other things that's going to be really interesting in this race is that these boats are going to be sailed fully crewed. That might not sound particularly unusual, but bear in mind, these boats are generally designed to be sailed single-handed, maybe double-handed at most. They're going to have a crew of 4 or 5 people on board. That's going to make them pretty crowded for a start. But the other thing that's interesting about it is that none of the teams really knows how that's going to go, because with the full crew, they're going to be able to do sail changes and maneuvers in a fraction of the time that they would expect. And that may well just change the whole performance profile of these boats. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Now, the other fleet to be taking part is this fleet, the Volvo 65s. Now, they are very familiar boats, of course, because they did the 2 previous Volvo ocean races. They're the same boats, rebranded, apart from one, Axo Nobel, who's in the same colours that it was in the last race. So let's go and take a little closer look. Now, there are 7 boats in this fleet, and one of them is this one, the Mirpuri Foundation. It's skippered by Jon Richomme, who's won the Figaro Solo twice. So there's plenty of eyes going to be on this team. Then there's Axo Nobel. This is the one to be the most familiar. It was skippered back then by Chris Nicholson, and it still is. Now, they've only just got the band back together just recently, but there's plenty of experience on this boat. Now, this boat, Ambersail, is the Lithuanian entry, and you may think the name is familiar, and you'd be right to, because Ambersail 1 was a Volvo 60, Ambersail 2 is a Volvo 65. Now, of the new teams, the Austrian Ocean Race project is indeed one of the freshest teams into this event, and that can also be said for its crew. It has a long list of crew of very young and talented sailors. It's going to be interesting to watch this one as well. Now, when it comes to racing, it's often said that it's hours on the water that counts. And for this new team, Viva Mexico, that might just be what puts them in very good stead indeed. Because just to get here, they've already done 7,000 miles in a whole range of conditions. That's going to be pretty useful. Now, Sailing Poland is another team that's also full of new sailing talent. But when you look down the list, there's one name that really sticks out, and that's a skipper, Bauer Becking. There's not many people in the world that know more about racing around the world than Bauer. So the 7th boat in the Volvo 65 fleet is this one, Team Childhood. It's also skippered by someone with an awful lot of experience, Simeon Tiempont. Plenty of experience offshore, but also someone who's won the America's Cup twice. So a fair bit of talent there then. So in this fleet, we know an awful lot about the boats, and indeed those that have sailed these boats before know a lot about how to make them go quickly. But what interests me particularly about this fleet is how many young sailors are involved. It's fascinating to look down the list and see just how many there are. The youngest crew member here is actually 16 years old. That's pretty impressive. But there's another thing that stands out as well, and that is that the youth element is not mandated by the class. That's the teams deciding that they want to bring on board young new sailors and give them the opportunity to get a taste of what offshore racing is really all about. That's really exciting. Anyway, the competition itself, that's going to be pretty exciting as well. Make sure you follow it. There's going to be live tracking that you can find on the Ocean Race website. That's theoceanrace.com. And of course, there's going to be plenty of videos and other material going up on the YouTube channel and of course the website itself. So stay watching, it's going to be a good one.
Make me come alive. There's a tremendous amount of honor and responsibility in being someone who knows something that really no one else in the industry knows about how to produce a complex and safe system using modern software techniques. My name is Jinnah Hossain. I am the Vice President of Software Engineering here at the Boeing Company. We're trying to modernize how we approach software here at the Boeing Company. You've got systems that carry our families, and you've got systems that defend our families. Those things need to work. This isn't an environment where we move fast and break things. It's an environment where things can never break. I like working in this space because people have come for this challenge. It's what makes software engineers at the Boeing Company so valuable and so special, is that the things you learn here, you can only learn here. The power of software, I would say, is when you get it right. The trick is, we got to bring the best people in. We have to leverage modern techniques and apply them in human safety critical applications, and we capture that in our people, and we capture that in our processes, and both are constantly evolving. I like coming to work every day and solving problems, but also sitting in awe of ideas and solutions. I feel like if you gave me 1,000,000 years, I wouldn't have come up with that idea. I think that isn't the experience that a lot of people have here, is that every day they are surrounded by and exposed to other brilliant people. People who push them to be their best. And we are constantly growing, and we are constantly developing, and we're constantly made better by the new people, and we are constantly made better by the people who are here. There's not a lot of places you can do that. If you want to change the world, you have to work at a place like Boeing. This kind of scope and this kind of span, thousands of different corners of the envelope, of challenging, hard problems that today no one knows how to solve. And that's the fun of it. That's about the perfect combination I can imagine for how do you choose where to go.
I felt at home right away in Cape Town. There's a really open quality in people who live by the ocean. The people here have a real sense of fun, of relaxation, lightness of touch. Everywhere you look, there's real style and originality, and I think it's hard not to get caught up in it. It's got amazing food, incredible aromas and color, all the things that make life rich. But I keep getting drawn back to the mountain. It's a unique and incredible thing to have a mountain like that right in the center of a city. I mean, up there you can really feel the vibrancy of this city and its people. I find it so inspiring.
August 15th, 1945, what's known as VJ Day. The United States and its allies mark the effective end of World War II after 6 years of fighting. They celebrate the defeat of the Axis powers a day after Japan agrees to an unconditional surrender. 1969. In upstate New York, the counterculture comes together for Woodstock, the largest rock concert of the 60s.
What we have in mind is breakfast in bed for 400,000.
Among the acts at the festival, which ended more than 3 days later, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, The Who, The Grateful Dead, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. 1769. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French general and ruler whose wars reshaped the map of Europe, is born on the island of Corsica. 1947. In Asia, India gains its independence a day after neighboring Pakistan is established, concluding British colonial rule over the entire Indian subcontinent. 1998. In Northern Ireland, the deadliest terror attack in decades of sectarian violence takes place in the town of Omagh. That's where a car bomb planted by an IRA splinter group kills 29 people and wounds hundreds of others. 1914. In Central America, the Panama Canal opens to shipping traffic, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And 1939.
Oh, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz, the movie musical fantasy starring Judy Garland that remains a pop culture classic, premieres in Hollywood. Today in History, August 15th. Camille Bohannon, The Associated Press.
Welcome back in our studio, and in today's news,